play in the NHL, play under those big bright lights. I wanna play in the NHL and dance with the ghosts tonight.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to TNC Sports Talk. You're only getting one half of the TNC tonight. It's just Chris, unfortunately, playing shorthanded. Tyler's on the bench. He's a little sick, which is kind of weird for me. Not really a big fan of talking by myself, but we will have some people joining us later on, and we'll take her from there. Interesting story about our good buddy Tyler feeling a little under the weather, and there's a story I like to tell from a few years back where Tyler reached out to me and he says, Chris, I had to go see the doctor because I get sick all the time. And I said, oh, yeah, really, Tyler? Like, gosh, I hope you're okay. Did he tell you? And he goes, well, yeah. He says, I don't eat enough fruits or vegetables. So I said, oh, that's going to be tough for you because all the kid eats is like pizza, chicken wings, and steaks. So, maybe the odd pierogi. So, there's some starch, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm like, oh, man, that's going to be a big change. What are you going to do? He says, oh, I just went and bought a bunch of multivitamins. I'm going to be fine. So anyway, we hope you get better soon, Tyler. And I miss you. Can't speak for the audience. Tonight, we got a few things to cover, not the least of which is they just named the Four Nations roster for Team Canada. Well, for all the teams, but we're going to focus here on Team Canada. Some surprises, some interesting things that I feel like I can draw some similarities between back in the day when, say, there was coach of the NHL All-Star team and there were 8 Oilers on the team. Not that any of them didn't deserve it, but it wasn't every team had at least one of their guys back then, although it was a 21-team league. So I suppose you could argue that maybe they did. Four Nations, and we got the Oilers to cover a little bit. Encouraging road trip. A little bit discouraged about last night's result against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And I'll cover that. Andrea is going to join us for a little bit, talk about some of her hockey shorts ideas. That's going to be a barn burner, I'm sure. And there's a couple other people may pop on. Cap Space is also on the bench. Someone's going around, folks. I don't have it, unfortunately, so you got to deal with me. So first of all, let's talk about that stupid Four Nations Cup. I've already gone on the record about how I feel about that. It's Four Nations, so it's not best on best. For example, you want to talk about goalies. Ilya Sorokin, arguably the best goalie in the league this year, he's not going to be in the tournament. Russia doesn't have a team. David Pastrnak, Czech doesn't have a team, or Czechia. I don't even know if he's Czech or Slovak, but regardless, no Pastrnak. Some of the best, Kirill Kaprizov, again, one of the best forwards in the league this year, not playing. Alex Ovechkin, well, he's injured, but again, not playing. So what are we doing here? What is this? Like, you have a tournament with 4 teams. It's not even, I don't think you'd even call it a Four Nations Cup. Let me see. Four Nations Face-Off, they call it. You can't even call it a cup. So as a dutiful Canadian, I'm obviously still going to be watching and cheering for Team Canada, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's better than the All-Star game, but then again, the All-Star game is only like the All-Star weekend, so only lose like 3 or 4 days in the schedule. Here, we're probably looking at week and a half. I mean, it's in Montreal, Boston. Presumably, all the teams play each other round robin-ish, and then they have a playoff. So, one Oiler made the team, Connor McDavid, and Team Canada. You got 2 guys shipping out to Sweden for Sweden. Matthias Ekholm and Victor Arvidsson, who's still injured. He's on IR with Tyler right now. I sure hope that he gets healthy soon and he's worthy of playing for Team Sweden, because that means he's going to be good enough to help us, which he hasn't really been doing. He's been out 9 games. And, he hasn't been really playing like the Victor Arvidsson that we presumed we'd be getting when we signed him. But again, these things change pretty quickly, and we're hoping that he's going to be on board and ready to go. At least for the Oilers, but don't really give a shit about Sweden or the Four Nations Cup for that matter. So Hyman played his way off, like according to most prognosticators, off of Team Canada, and I'm glad. I mean, the guy's injured now, um, and you hope that we're going to go on a long run in the spring. So, as I said before, the more healthy guys we have, the better. And what better than a week off in February? I mean, nobody gets through the playoffs completely healthy nowadays. And any rest, any recuperation time that a guy can get, particularly when we're talking about what, a month and a half, 2 months before the playoffs start. I mean, that's awesome. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy Hyman's not on the team. I'm happy Bouchard's not on the team for another reason. I mean, he's a young guy. He might not need to recover as quickly as, say, a guy like Hyman. But I don't think it's going to help him in his contract negotiations with the Oilers. So that benefits us. And frankly, he didn't deserve to be on the team. You got Cale Makar running the power play. You need some big bodies to play a shutdown role. Um, if you watch the Vegas Golden Knights game last night, that's all they did. They built a wall around the front of the net, kept everything out to the perimeter, and that's not really Evan Bouchard's style. So if I'm picking Team Canada, I'm not taking him anyway. And then you got Stuart Skinner. His game's rounding into form. He had a great game. He's had a good run, actually. The last 5 or 6 games, starting to play like the Stuart Skinner we know and love, and that took us to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's great. And again, with the bumps and bruises, I know his wife's expecting, so hopefully he'll be there for that. He's got a week and a half or so to be around his family and recover whatever recovery time he needs. So nothing but good things for the Oilers as far as that goes. And do you really, if you had a choice between having your player fresh and healthy for the Stanley Cup playoffs or playing in a meaningless fucking tournament that doesn't amount to anything and isn't best on best, well, good, because that's the way it's going to be, and I hope that we benefit the most from it. Now, getting to the other players chosen, we'll do a quick caption here of what the actual choices were for Team Canada. Now, the interesting thing about the selections on forward, at least, is that John Cooper is the head coach of Team Canada. They have like 5 coaches too, like, which is crazy. And there are 3 Tampa Bay Lightning, so basically 25% of your 12 forwards that will be playing are Tampa Bay Lightning players. Now, obviously, he has the benefit of seeing them, but I have a hard time believing that not necessarily Brendan Hagel, but Cirelli, Anthony Cirelli, is that his name? Yeah, that Cirelli is a better player, or will be better for Team Canada than, say, Mark Scheifele, who was left off the team. Um, there's some other notable exceptions, at least according to my list. On my list, I had uh, Matt Barzal. Now I know he's injured, so that's fine. Um, and you got Connor Bedard, who's I mean, he's a sophomore NHL hockey player. I mean, uh, he's not going to be playing like McDavid in year 4 or even year 3. He's learning the league. He's on a shitty team, but in years to come, even next year with the Olympics, you'd like to think that presumably a player that they've been sort of hinting at being generational is going to be good enough to make the team in his 3rd year pro. Now, he's not going to have the experience of playing with these guys or being in an international tournament if he's not on the team. So Tampa Bay Lightning's coach chose Anthony Cirelli over Connor Bedard. Now, Anthony Cirelli might be great on the PK. He might be a good depth player, when things get tough. If they're playing playoff hockey and they're playing really tight, then maybe you want a guy who's a little more reliable defensively. But there's plenty of players out there who are both. Mark Scheifele being one. Other guys, Wyatt Johnson was left off. Nick Suzuki is another fellow that, he's having a great year. So it'd be interesting to hear his rationale, John Cooper, about why a guy like Anthony Cirelli is on the team now. I can't. The other Lightning players on the forwards for Team Canada are Brendan Hagel and Braden Point. You can't argue with Braden Point. I think that he was already named before. Brandon Hagel is having a career year, and I was advocating for him, so no argument there. But there are plenty of players on Team Canada, plenty of Canadian players in the NHL that are, in my opinion, better than Anthony Cirelli for an international tournament like this. Now on defense, Evan Bouchard didn't make the team. I already said why I'm happy, and there's duplication there anyway, as far as having Cale Makar. And the other surprise for me was Travis Sanheim. Colton Parayko, I don't really know what kind of a season he's having. I know Sanheim's one of the leaders in Philly. But on my list, I had Dougie Hamilton. There's some experience for you, and the kid's got a shot. Owen Powers having a good year. Another young guy that maybe you want to bring along into some sort of international program, presuming that Team Canada will be playing more than just the Olympics. Like, maybe there'll be a tournament 2 years from the Olympics, like they used to do with the old Canada Cup. And not some stupid Four Nations bullshit, but actual, like, these are the best, best teams in the best countries, best players in the world against each other. I'd like to see that maybe 2 years after the Olympics, and maybe even call it the Canada Cup again, or I don't know, the World Cup. I don't know, like whatever you call it. But I mean, we used to get pretty damn excited about that old Canada Cup, and it gave us some really good hockey back in the 80s, early 90s, 70s even. I'm not even sure, but that might be another example of players that had a lot of Oilers on them. Like Kevin Lowe, I think, played on a Canada Cup. And I think you could probably argue that he wasn't as good as some of the guys that didn't make the team back in the day, 87. Anyways, that's where we sit for this Four Nations face-off, a pretend tournament, taking the place of the All-Star game and shutting down the league for at least 10 days. So we'll see what happens. Not disappointed. I think maybe Matthias Ekholm's a guy that could probably use the 10 days to recover. He plays a tough game. It looked like he got hurt a little bit last night. He didn't start in the third period. It was Kulak and Bouchard together in the third, and I think that his minutes were wound back a bit in the third after he took a shot in the second, after which he didn't play much in the second either. But again, that's the type of player. He plays a hard game. He's 34. Do I want him playing for Team Sweden in an international tournament rather than getting 10 days rest before arguably the most crucial playoffs in the history of our team? I'd rather you get the rest, obviously. So anyway, we'll see how it shakes out. Again, I'll be cheering, even though I don't really give a shit about this stupid tournament. So back to the Oilers. We had a 3-game road trip, and I think we played well on all of them. I think our game is rounding into form. I like the way our defense are playing. The team defense is really important. We're coming back. Teams are covered. The coverage in our D zone is a lot better. The team's collapsing pretty well, and we're keeping most of the play out in the perimeter. It's those turnovers like what cost us last night. But anybody that wants to talk shit about Skinner, he had a great game last night. He had a great road trip. I know Pickard was in against Utah, but beyond that, Skinner's games against Colorado and Knights were great, and that's a continuation of how he's been playing like the last handful of games. So good on him. Shitty turnover by Draisaitl, but the real culprit, when you want to ask why we lost that game, has to be our play in the ozone. The way teams play in the playoffs and the way teams like the Vegas Golden Knights play, it's all perimeter. They're gonna box you out. They're gonna keep you on the outside, and that's when you got to send pucks to the net. That's when you got to crash the net. That's when you need bigger bodies. like our buddy Cap Space, who laments the absence of Evander Kane, rightfully. You need guys with a little more fortitude to get in front of the net, to pick up the garbage, and you need guys to be sending shots, because otherwise it's hockey porn watching McDavid and Draisaitl tooling around in the perimeter, their nice moves, the dainty passes, like big fucking deal. They've got like three guys collapsed in front of their goalie. You need to send pucks there. You need scrambles, and you need guys with the net front presence and the courage to get in there and knock in those rebounds, because that's the only way you're going to score against a team like the Knights and period in the playoffs. Like, so hopefully that lesson was sort of reinforced last night. A game we easily could have won. I think we outshot them 16-2 in the third. But again, it was mostly perimeter, and we played the way Vegas wanted us to. So that was my disappointment. Hopefully, we got a lot of season left, so hopefully that lesson was reinforced, like I said. Speaking of goalies, Aiden Hill had a great night. Again, he's a brick wall. He's a big guy. And when you have guys fighting in front of you and limiting your goal scoring chances, like in the slot, in the high danger areas, I mean, you're going to have a good game. Your body, you've got the type of body, it's going to be easy to block shots from the outside. Not to take anything away from him, he's a great goalie. I'm glad he's on Team Canada. They picked the guys I expected them to pick for goalie: Binnington, Aiden Hill, Sam Montembeault, who's an up-and-comer, if you didn't hear what I said last week, he could be the goalie of the future for Team Canada, but he's having a sensational year for Montreal, and a great kid to be an understudy for something like the Olympics next year and whatever comes in the coming years as far as national, international tournaments. So, but yeah, as far as the Oilers go, defensive structure is better. The team's playing better. And our offense can't piss a squirt. Unfortunately, I think I read where Draisaitl and McDavid were responsible for 42% of our scoring. And that's not good enough. Now, obviously, we miss Hyman, but when he was here, he wasn't scoring. Jeff Skinner's not scoring. We're missing Arvidsson, obviously. Podkolzin's had a bit of a tear that stopped last night, 3 goals in a row. But he's not a first shot scorer, and he's not trending towards 20 goals. Now, when we made all those moves in the summer and we swapped basically Fogle and McLeod for Arvidsson and Skinner, I thought, well, that's great because these guys are like, Skinner's a perpetual 30 goal scorer. Arvidsson's had 20. I think he's had 30 once. And he's a hard worker, keeps pucks in the O-zone. I thought, oh man, our offense is going to be so much better. And in fact, it's been worse. And again, largely because I think teams know how to play us. And you're going to see that collapse game. You're going to see that perimeter game where they force you to the outside. And unless you possess some piss and vinegar, and you're gonna get after it. I mean, it's gonna hold you back. And yeah, another interesting stat that I came across is the Oilers this year in 25 games, I think, they've been shut out 5 times. Last year, the whole season, they've been shut out 3 times. So we're not scoring. And your game, your defensive game, I like how it's shaping up. I like how it's rounding out. Presumably, we're going to add something at the deadline that will even more so reinforce our D, our 6D. But I mean, you hear it said so often, it's a 3-2 league. Okay, but where are you going to find those 3 goals when your team's not scoring? Last night was a 1-0 league, and we didn't score a goal. So I don't know. Power play's been shit in the bed. Teams, it's like Captain Video back in the day. Roger, gosh, I forgot his name, and I shouldn't. That's too bad. But yeah, teams watch video all the time. They figure out how to beat you, and you've got to evolve. Sometimes the worst place to be is ahead of the pack because you spend half your time looking over your shoulder. But in this case, in today's NHL, Roger Nielsen, Captain Video, Roger Nielsen, In today's NHL, I mean, coaches are in the locker room and they're after the game for hours, before the game for hours, looking at video, breaking things down, finding a way to beat your power play, beat your PK, beat McDavid and Draisaitl, shut him down. And unless you're on top of that and figuring ways around it, that shit continues, man. And and I don't know. I mean, we got to look at some video ourselves maybe and see what we can do about that power play. I'd like to see a little more movement, but I think that we are right around the bottom of. I think we're 20th in the league in power play, but the differentials really suck. They compared us to Montreal and San Jose in an article I read, and that was disappointing to say the least. But not untrue. So again, I'm hopeful that we can turn things around. But power play is a little different. It's a lot more organic, and if you're not generating, you're not generating, and you got to do something about it. Yeah. So the Oilers are ranked 13th in goals against. They're 28th in goals by forwards. Yeah, they're not being goalied. I mean, I'm reading from Jason Gregor. But yeah, quite frankly, something's got to be done about that power play because as much as we're not getting secondary scoring from the Hymans, Podkolzins, and Skinners, Arvidssons, even Nugent Hopkinses of the world, that's when you got to at least rely a little bit more on or be able to rely more on your power play so that, something happens that you can generate those goals where they come and take advantage of the opportunities that are given you. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed and frankly quite concerned about our offense because the tools are there, but we got to find a way. We got to find a little more grit, a little more grime, and Hyman's going to be back tomorrow. He offers that, to his credit, but hopefully regression kicks in and he can take advantage more of some of the opportunities that he's had to this point. But yeah, Four Nations Cup, other notables, I suppose, is if you want to talk about Team USA, you got Swayman, Ottinger, and Hellebuck. Holy shit. Talk about a team with goaltending. I don't think this is going to be a goalie tournament. Again, it's team play. I think it's going to be tighter than international events we've seen in the past. But yeah, as far as goalies go, I'm not sure they're going to have the impact that some people expect. But you never know. That's why they play the game. So I guess we'll see. Yeah, and as far as the Oilers are concerned, other notables was last night. I thought Jeff Skinner had arguably his best game as an Oiler. He was really responsible defensively, and he was really generating some stuff on that third line, which we needed. They did a good job of hemming the Knights in when they were on the ice. They generate some stuff, but again, they play that greasy style, and that's what's going to beat a team like the Knights. So obviously, they're going to maybe thrive a little more than a McDavid Draisaitl line. I guess maybe if we had a Hyman in there in front of the net when McDavid and Draisaitl were playing together pretty much the whole third period, you might have seen some garbage get behind Aiden Hill. But yeah, Jeff Skinner, I think now that Zach Hyman's healthy, maybe he gets his shot too in the top six. I think I'd shave back Connor Brown he's been playing with Draisaitl and Podkolzin pretty much the last 3 games. It might be time to give Skinner a look on that line again, like they had planned at the beginning of the season with Skinner, Draisaitl, Arvidsson. Now Arvidsson's out, but Podkolzin's been a pretty steady line mate of Leo's. So I'd like to see the kid get the shot. Hopefully he continues to play responsibly defensively so the coach doesn't yank him, pull the rug out from under him. I'm cheering for the guy despite what Tyler might let you believe. And again, I just hope that regression kicks in and some of these guys, pot a few goals here to help us out on that secondary scoring front. But yeah, that's where we sit right now. We play the Blue Jackets tomorrow night. Hyman's back. Who the fuck knows about Victor Arvidsson? I read after the announcement of the Four Nations Cup rosters, Four Nations face-off rosters, that Team Sweden's manager has been in close contact with him, and he's certain that he'll be ready. I hope so too. I hope he's ready sooner. But boy, an injury-prone player. Like, he hasn't played much. That contract he had with LA, they didn't get a lot of value out of it. I think he missed the better part of his season with that back of his. They didn't get value for what they were paying the kid, and it feels like we're in the same boat right now. And a blessing that I read was they said it was lower body, so presuming that back's upper body. Maybe it's a high ankle sprain, maybe it's something like that where it doesn't linger throughout the season. But boy, a guy who's missed 9 games, do you really want him flying out to Montreal and Boston for 10 days in an international tournament, or would you prefer him being at home, recuperating, recovering? I know how I'd feel, and it's definitely the latter. So I don't know, but I wish him the best. I've always liked that player. I liked him when he was with Nashville. I didn't see much of him when he was in LA because he was hurt all the time, but I was quite happy when we signed him. And I hope that he brings more of what we expected to get when we brought him on over the summer. So, we're hoping to, we're going to invite our friend Andrea from the Hockey Shorts segment of our podcast, which, by the way, we can't do the intro to anymore because we got copyrighted on YouTube, and a lot of people, that we that watch the podcast aren't fans of watching on Rumble, which I don't understand. But I understand that but I do know that there's commercials and stuff, like there is anywhere. But if you ask anybody if they have a premium video online video account, it's way more likely to be on YouTube than it will be on Rumble. I have Rumble Premium, and I have to tell you that it's friggin' awesome, and I highly recommend it. So we have Andrea from Hockey Shorts in our waiting room, and I can hear her now. Here,
Yep.
how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, of course. Do you have any best wishes for Tyler?
Well, I hope he hasn't lost his voice.
Maybe eat more vegetables and fruits.
Yes, that too. That 24-hour scurvy is going around. Rampant. Suck on a lime, Tyler. Suck on a lime.
When I was in university, we had a guy I lived in a fraternity house, and we had a fella that lived with us. His name was James. I'll just give you his first name. And it's weird because all the fellas hung out all the time. Like, he'd come to the house here, and we're in the living room watching TV all the time, or playing cards or dinner or whatever. And James, he'd come into the house and go right up to his room. And the only time he came out of his room was to make KD. And his section of the pantry, all it was KD. And then one of the fellas started calling him Jiminy Ricketts, and the name stuck. But yeah,
That'll do it.
That's Tyler for you. So, how you feeling about the Oilers, Andrea?
Good, positive, hopeful, always hopeful.
Yeah. Any noteworthy players that caught your eye lately?
Well, obviously, Podkolzin for sure. He's just really kind of doing really quite well just right from the get-go. Like, he's there, he's present, he's making moves. I like that he's such a big guy, because we've had big guys in the past where they just can't move, right? Like, they might be good enforcers or, kind of good in the corner, but like Podkolzin's big, but he can move, which is really nice, right? So he's not huffing and puffing down at the end like Desharnais used to be, right? So it's definitely nice to see he's got the energy. He's just in there, just defending the guys, and he's immediately a part of the team, right? So it's really good. Some of the other little guys, like the new guys like Stetcher and Skinner, like they're trying hard, like they're trying to get in there and make the plays, and that's not always working, but at least it's nice to see that they're trying really hard, right? So
Yeah, like the effort's important with Podkolzin. After he started scoring, I mean, prognosticators, guys in the media, people like us, we've liked his game from the jump. But there was an article or two or comments that were asked to be given by his teammates after he scored those couple goals, particularly the first one. And the one thing that everybody was talking about was how hard he works. And we're not talking about on the ice, I mean, which is obvious, but he's there 20 minutes before practice shooting pucks. And after practice, working on his game. And anybody who's been in a locker room, you got to respect that. And it's pretty easy to earn the respect of your teammates when you're working so hard. And believe me, he wouldn't be playing with Draisaitl for most of the season so far if Leo didn't want him on his line.
Oh, yeah.
And it's nice to see him mentoring that kid. And I mean, listen, he's a top 10 overall. He was a number 10 overall pick when he was drafted. Yeah. So the tools are there. And it's nice to see him be embraced by his teammates. And particularly nice to see him working so hard. I mean, there's always a spot on my team for a guy like that. So it's nice to see him get success. And like that goal he scored against Colorado is basically a one-timer. I bet we were talking about it during the game. I think that's a shot that he probably made 1,000 times in practice, in those 20 minutes before and after the guys hit the ice. So it's nice to see the kid get rewarded, and hopefully he'll continue to work hard. I'm sure he will, but hopefully the carrots will come too. So now,
as long as the work ethic is there, right? Like, I mean, that goes such a long way, right? So it's and he doesn't have to be like the best player, right? It's just like he's there when they need him and where they need him, right? He's just there, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's a great player, great all around player. You don't always just want the top goal scorer, the best defense. You want that guy who's like the all arounder as well to really kind of help round out the team, right? So
yeah, you actually need that, and it's good to have. And out on the ice, he creates a lot of room for Leo. So it's probably another reason why Draisaitl likes him. I mean, he's great in the corners, and he's.
I wouldn't want to run into him.
Yeah, he's great at fishing out those loose pucks. Yeah, remember he one-punched that guy. I don't know, 10 or 15 games ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a guy who's fun to play against. So good for him. Now, there was a couple things I wanted to address with you, particularly that fit into your hockey shorts motif.
Okay.
And let me see. I'm gonna check right now while I'm talking. Bear with me. I think I know we did that video with the hockey shorts, but no, we just have the graphic of you. That's okay. So hockey shorts. Now, I want to get into when last time you were on with T and me, we were talking about, Tyler was talking about the rule book.
Oh, yes.
And
guess who downloaded it? Guess who read a lot of it?
Yeah, nobody actually thought you would. And and I saw you bury your nose into that, which I thought was awesome. Good for you. So what I'm curious about, before we get to that though, who's the coach of the Philadelphia Flyers?
Is that the George Tortellini one? I only know him and Rick Tocchet. That's all I know.
John Tortorella?
That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
The guy that never wears suits? Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. The other thing is, do you want to, it's up to you. Do you want to go into the rule book first, or do you want to talk about your penalty idea? Which...
Well, we can talk about the penalty thing. I guess it's pretty short, and it'll be shorter considering Tyler's not going to be commenting on it. So my idea for the penalties is we always have like the 2-minute just minor, and then we have the big 5-minute like majors or double majors if there's been like really bad and boarding or there's blood and all of that.
Yeah, it's a major.
So my idea is that, you know what, did the crime, you got to do the time. So usually when somebody scores, the penalty's over for the little major, or sorry, for the minors, not the majors, just the minors. I think it should be the whole 2 minutes. I don't think it should matter, right? And now I know Tyler's probably at home listening to this, rolling his eyes, which is fine. But it's true though. It's not like you can't say like, oh, well, automatically the team's going to score like 10 times, and that's going to throw all the scores and all the stats sheets all out of whack. And it's like, no, not necessarily. I mean, I've seen how many, big major penalties for 5 minutes and nobody scored, so it's not a guarantee. So I think, and like you were talking about it earlier a little bit about some guys getting hurt, right? Where it's just like, you know what, maybe then that guy's not going to get cross-checked, or he's going to think twice before accidentally boarding some guy, right? So it's gonna, I mean, there's always gonna be the bad calls, the bad penalties and all that. I mean, that's gonna happen regardless. Like with some like the embellishments and stuff like that we were talking about there last time, right? But I think that maybe some of the harder penalties, right? Like, the stupid penalties that I don't like, the selfish penalties, when some guy like Nurse just goes up and cross checks some guy because he's pissed off after they've called the whistle, after everyone stopped skating, he just goes up and cross checks some guy. Like, that's, come on, so
Dry
you do
saddle's like that. Dry saddle can be like that too.
not as much as Nurse though, right? And so that's the thing.
You're just
So
saying
it's
that because you love him.
maybe. But that's the thing though, right? So maybe like you do the full penalty. So I mean, and again, maybe it doesn't stop anybody. Maybe guys don't give a shit. I don't know. But I think it would be good that if you do the crime, you do the time, and you have to sit in that box for the full 2 minutes. Suck it up, Buttercup. If they score 3 times, they score 3 times. They don't score at all, they don't score at all. Maybe that'll get some teams actually working on their PK, because some teams PK sucks. Like, it's like they're like, what's what watching like a fucking peewee midget game out there. Some of these PKs are just awful.
Yeah.
So that would maybe actually kind of force some teams to actually maybe work on their PK a little bit more. So I don't know. That's just my idea, that they should actually have to have the full 2 minutes in the box. Doesn't matter if it's major, minor, you're in the box for the time. That's it.
I don't think those teams need incentive to improve their PK. But there's some interesting things you raised there. Not the least of which is that, like, you think that that's enough to curb behavior, like that
I think it might
guys.
make some guys think twice, like it's because I mean and again, like I said, it's not necessarily guaranteed. It would be a very good social experiment, right? Because yeah, like sometimes it's not like I said, it's not guaranteed that you're going to score. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, right? Sometimes guys score, right after the hash mark. The puck just goes in like 3 seconds flat after the penalty starts, right? Other times full 5 minutes and nobody even scores. Sure, they'll have a lot of chances, but they can't even score in 5 minutes, right? So it's not necessarily a guarantee. So maybe it won't change things, but I still think you do the crime, you do the time.
Yeah, like I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've seen. Well, first of all, like your point about discouraging negative behavior. I mean, how often, how many, like, we don't see 5 minute majors barely at all. And, I mean, it could be fairly argued that maybe a big reason is because teams know how much in the hole they'll put their team if they do something that merits a 5 minute major. Ergo, you're not going to have that kind of play in the game. So,
well, and to be fair as well, like, I mean, we only watch like Oilers. Like, we're not watching like the Oilers and the Blackhawks and the Panthers. Like, we're not watching all these other teams, right? So I mean, like, we don't know how many 5 minute majors, Philadelphia has
like
had in the last 2 years. So we can't really say, right? But I mean, it still does happen, right? And again, even just regular little penalties, whether it's even just a cross check. I'm not talking boarding where you've like knocked the guy's all teeth out, right? Or like, but I mean, like, I was like, there's so many of the 2 minute penalties for like the spearing, the cross check, and the slashing, the elbowing, all of them. I mean, there's just so many of them, right? That it's just Tyler might not like this, where like, again, so many of them can be sometimes incidental, where the guys just kind of hit each other and it's just one of those things. But again, that's not every penalty. It does happen. There'll be some shitty calls, but you do the time, you do the crime. That's my hockey short for the week.
You do the crime, you do the time.
Yep.
So the other thing about it, I actually don't disagree with you. I think that's a good idea.
Sorry, what was that?
I think it's a good idea. Okay. Like, you want to write down the time and date. The thing about it is that, like, 2 minutes is not a long time. And there aren't too many teams that score in, like, say, the first 10 seconds of the power play. So like, let's say a team even did. So that's still, you've got 1 minute, 50 seconds to kill. And I mean, that's not a, and then you got to face off at center ice. And then you win that face off. Now that 150 turns into 130 because you dumped it south or north, I should say. And so I don't think it's that punitive, really, when you think about it. And frankly, how many, like a successful power play converts maybe 25% of their chances.
Yeah.
I think I'm being generous there. So what harm does it do to let the teams that actually do score play it out, right? So, and again, like like a team scores, let's say, with a minute left in a 2-minute power play. So now they have a face-off at center ice. The other team wins the face-off, the defending team, and they send it down the ice. Well, you get it back to the zone. Maybe you're looking at 45 seconds. So I don't know if it's as punitive as you think, but I'll tell you one thing: I sure would like to try that one out.
Oh, good.
Even though our power play sucks right now.
But see, it would force us to get better.
Yeah. Did you know last night's game was the first NHL game since 1944 where there was only one goal scored and no penalties?
It was I missed the game last night. It was a no penalty game. I'm always asking you that if there's ever been like a game where there's like no penalties, like
Yeah,
has
well,
it ever happened? Because like I've watched games all the way up to the third period and there's not been a penalty to lead, but that even just one, but it took all the way to the third period to get it. But wow, so there was not a single penalty last night.
no.
Wow, and for either team.
Well, there wasn't a single penalty, Andrew.
Okay, well, just checking, clarifying. Well, that's interesting. Wow, there you go.
Yeah, well,
Was everybody on their best behavior, or were there still quite a few calls where you were like, oh, the ref missed that one, or oh, he should have called that one? Or was it
like
actually
both teams,
a pretty clean game?
Both guys played really tightly within their roles. Like it was very much like a playoff game. It was a very disciplined, like in terms of the team's adherence to their systems, their respective systems, and staying within their lanes, I guess, like for lack of a better term, as far as knowing their roles. That's what it was. And there wasn't a lot of free ice out there, but there wasn't a lot of chippiness either. So I frankly, I wasn't a fan of it. It's not the kind of hockey I like to watch, but it is what it is. I mean, fuck it. Like, I hate that collapsing 3 guys line in the crease bullshit and the perimeter shit. But that's like complaining about winter. What good does it do? That's what it is. Like, and if we're successful as a team defensively, the Oilers, we're going to be playing the same way. I mean, it just fucking is what it is. Like, unfortunately. So tell us about this rule book. You got some Cole's notes or some interesting things that you came across?
Oh God, no! It was quite interesting, and like I mean, I love detail, right? So it was interesting. All like, what was it, 220 pages? Just like all the extra little like exceptions and exceptions to the exceptions and the little loopholes and things like that, and how they had it all kind of broken down for all the penalties. And what's allowed to be called, and giving tons of examples as well. So like, just in case, just for clarification, if this happened or this happened, this is how you would call it. So as you would obviously assume a rule book's going to be, especially for something like NHL level hockey, right? But I see some wiggle room to make some changes.
And who are you going to send your recommendations to?
Gary Bettman.
Oh, you got it right. I've heard a lot of variations on that name over the years.
I'm writing a sternly worded letter.
To George Bestman.
No, it was Larry Benetton.
Yeah. Now, you found something else. I remember when you were reading that about descriptions of equipment.
Oh yeah, that's right. So for my hockey shorts idea, they actually did indicate that they are short pants, which again is like a total fucking misnomer. Because again, you don't have something called short pants. If they were short pants, like if we're talking fashion wise here, and this is where I'm bringing in my fashion expertise, you've got long pants. If you go shopping for jeans or pants at a store, right, you've got like long, like extra long, so they're going to be on the floor, they're going to be getting ripped up and all dirty. You got long, you got ankle length, you've got maybe just like a little bit above, or like a regular length, right? Anything shorter than that is going to be like a capri pant, which is going to be like, a few inches below the knee, right? So you've got long, regular, ankle, capri. Anything above the knee is a short. So it's not short pants, they're shorts. So
So I'm
it's either
just
that
so,
or, like I said, we can change it to my other option would be schpants.
so all of you that are tuned into our hockey podcast, uh, you're welcome for all that information about capris. Now listen, like you're basically acknowledging that you're wrong about hockey shorts
No, I'm not.
because you call like hockey pants hockey shorts,
Yeah,
right?
that's what they are. They're hockey shorts. They're not pants. They're
But
shorts.
you yourself said in the rule book they called them short pants.
Yeah, which is wrong, and they should change it.
But-
That's what I'm saying. Even they're still kind of trying to call them pants, but they're short pants. They're not
They're
short
short pants.
pants.
They're pants. They're short pants, but they're pants.
Okay, Chris, then why don't you wear some short pants when it's minus 30 outside? See how that goes down.
How about like short sleeves and long sleeves? Do we call short sleeve shirts shorts?
Say that again. What?
Well, you have like short sleeve shirt and a long sleeve shirt. So you have short sleeves and long sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
You don't call short sleeves shorts because it's still sleeves. Like short pants are still fucking pants. Not for nothing.
I could maybe cede that one to you,
Yeah,
but that's
there you
only
go.
the one portion of it, though, right? Like if you think about it, that's still only covering the arms, right? It's not like the short sleeve T-shirt, right, is up here and it's also a crop top, right? So I
Crop
don't know.
top. This is a hockey podcast. I don't know what you're talking about.
And actually, you don't usually call like a shirt like a short sleeve shirt. You'd usually call it like a T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's got a different name, right?
Okay. You were talking when you were reading that rule book there.
Mm-hmm.
There was something else that you pointed out to me. I don't know if you remember. Um,
Mm-hmm.
about was it penalties? Yeah, I think it was about the diving or clipping.
Oh, that. Yeah, no, and I can't obviously remember all the exact in and outs, but yeah, like they have to do it. They can't just do it because it's almost, yeah, it's kind of like an embellishment, right? So they're allowed to obviously do it, which I still don't agree with. But they are allowed to do it as long as they're like it's like a forward motion, like going towards saving the puck or saving the net from the puck, right? They can't just
Like who's allowed to do what?
well, like the players like on defense are allowed to like lie down, take that knee, kind of like spread out, as long as like the puck is like moving towards the goal and it appears that like a guy's going to take a shot on net.
Oh yeah, like the thing you hate.
Yes.
Yeah, like the lying on the ice.
So they are allowed to do it. Like I said, I don't agree with it.
And we always told you that. Like,
I know, but I mean yeah, but rules can change. I'm sure this rule book's gone over many edits over the last
well,
100
of
years of
course, yeah,
hockey.
yeah.
So things can change.
One of the things that because we found ourselves in that situation in the last few games. Um, you won't remember this, but like back in the '80s when we had like Gretzky and Curry and Messi and Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's coincidental minors, which means that you're on one team, I'm on the other, and we both, like say roughing or something.
Yeah.
You go off, I go off, and each team is short a man, so it's 4-4.
Yeah.
They changed that rule in the late '80s because when Gretzky and Curry had that much more space, it was basically like the Oilers having a power play. Like I can't tell you how many times we scored goals when it was 4-on-4. Now, it's even strength, but our players, so that they actually changed the rule book so that when there was coincidental minors, it was still 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a matter of I don't know, is it the rules committee and the board of governors, the GM meetings that they have where they change some of the rules. They always tweak things.
Which is really interesting as well, because where did it instigate from, right? Like, was this like so many teams signed a petition saying, well, it's not fair. Like, they keep scoring on us. What happens? Like, who instigated that? That would be interesting to know.
One team, and then everybody's like, hey, that's a great idea. The Oilers kick our ass every time it's 4-on-4. Let's fucking do it.
Then get better.
I mean, yeah, well, like it's a vote, and it's like the vote carries. a 21 league team, and like 11 guys vote for it. When I'm sure 11 would, after being dominated by the Oilers, how many seasons 4-on-4?
But
But
see that
interestingly,
see again, I hate that kind of shit because then it's like get better. You're trying to find a loophole so that some other team who's worked their ass off just happen to play really good together. Okay, that you're trying to make them not play as well, or you're trying to find that loophole so that they can't play as well and they can't beat you. That's not fair. This is professional sports. Why are we trying to put things in place that are removing those options, right?
yeah, but
That's not fair. I hate that, Jet. It's the same thing with the lying down. You get two skates and a stick. If you can't defend, if you didn't get back fast enough, or you can't defend it, your stick handling's not good enough. Get better. This is the NHL.
well, but when you're on the rules committee, which they have, and then you bring recommendations to the board of governors. I mean, it's that's why they call it rule by committee, because I agree with you, Andrea. Like, but if I'm at a board of governors meeting, excuse me, I'm not there for the fucking benefit of the game. I'm there for the Edmonton Oilers.
Mhm.
And if something helps me, I'm going to vote for it. And if something hurts me, I'm not. It's as simple as that. Now
So
there
why
isn't a
was it
guy.
even an option? Why was it even brought to the table to be voted on? That's what I'm saying. That should not have happened. It's like, too bad. Get better.
Yeah,
Practice
well,
more. Make better
it
draft picks. Make
it was,
pick
yeah,
better UFAs. That's what I'm saying, right? Then this is where, I mean, Jesus Christ, we get rid of coaches like, like crazy, 2-3 coaches a year on the same team. Like they're just throwing them out. So there's obviously something there, right? So I don't
yeah,
think they should be penalizing the Oilers for being good. That's not fair. Oh, you don't want us to win another cup? Then fucking make better trades. Do better.
yeah. Well, you know
It's
what
not
though?
one
Like,
guy. It's a whole fucking team and all the whole big management and the whole big cogs and wheels behind it. The whole big machine. Do better.
but I think actually, like, I mean, if that rule was universally taken advantage of, then you know, half the teams would do better, with the 4-on-4 and be happy that it's there. And half the teams wouldn't because their team sucked and they weren't good at 4-on-4. But truthfully, like if you have a rule like that every team is capable of taking advantage of, but only one team really dominates at it to the point where all the other teams are like, yeah, we should make it 5-on-5. If anything, it's a big compliment to the Oilers of the day because they literally were so fucking dominant. Like if you're playing,
Compliment. I mean, of course, it was the Oilers, it was the Empire, right? It's the dynasty,
yeah,
right? I mean, yeah, I understand. Like, I get where they're coming from. They're pissed off that we can't beat them, right? But then it's like, here's a thought: don't be getting penalties. Here's a thought: play a cleaner game, so you're not even getting a possibility of an incidental penalty, and then placing your team in that position. And again, I
yeah,
realize bad calls and there's shit's going to happen. I get it, but still, I don't think that's fair. Like
okay,
bashing the team, right? Like, because I mean, it's not like Messier and like and Gretzky and Coffey. It's not like they all played together till the end, until the day they all retired. They all got split up. Hawkins sold Gretzky. Mess left for the Rangers. They all ended up leaving. You
yeah,
know, so I mean, it's not a permanent thing. It's I mean, they changed this rule just for the Oilers, and then the Oilers aren't the Oilers anymore, right?
yeah.
Like,
Well,
it's,
it took a lot of time for them to change it back. Excuse me, to where it actually was 4-on-4 again. But having said that, like I noticed it in McDavid and Draisaitl. Like when that happens now and it's 4-on-4, you see McDavid and Draisaitl. You see last game it was excuse me, Nuge and Podkolzin or Arvidsson. I don't know, but yeah, teams still try to stack up. So it's kind of like a mini power play, but it's almost mini 3-on-3. I
yeah.
like to see it. It's a nice feature of the game. I wish they never took it out
Mhm.
for obvious reasons. But anyway, speaking of which, I know you haven't noticed it much, but Kasperi Kapanen was picked up on waivers
Mhm.
10 days ago,
Mhm.
and he scored his first goal
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
against Colorado.
yeah. Mhm.
I like the way he's playing with us. Obviously, it's not hard to play with McDavid if you've got the wheels, and he's
Mhm.
looks like he's got pretty good hands. It'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see what shakes out with him when Arvidsson's healthy. But somebody said, I think Capspace said that the fact that we picked him up off waivers indicates that Arvidsson's going to be out longer. But
Mhm.
something I forgot to mention last time. Getting back to this rule book of yours,
Mhm.
um, any other highlights? Because there's one I remember that you mentioned. Anything that comes to mind?
Sorry, not off the top of my head. Sorry. I've had a
Can
busy
you
couple of days at work.
can you explain? That's no excuse.
Sorry, I was a little bit blindsided by having to be on tonight's show last minute. I'm obviously contributing a lot more than I normally do, so a little bit of
Well,
blindsided.
that's
Or else I would have
we'll let
prepared
the audience
notes.
decide. We'll let the audience decide. So why don't you explain to our faithful listeners, Andrea, what clipping is? Because is that a penalty? Clipping?
It is, and oh my god, I'm blanking out on what it was. They
You
don't
explain
call
it
it,
to
but it
me.
was really similar to something else, and that's why I was like, because I was reading through all the penalties, right? Like obviously I know pretty much all of them except the one for clipping, and I couldn't remember. I'm gonna look it up right now. It was really similar to something else, and that's why I don't think they call it as often. So like,
Yeah, like it was. It's not. Well, no, because do you have to use your hands for clipping?
so a match penalty will. Oh, sorry. So the penalty for clipping depends on the severity of the impact and whether an opponent is injured. So it occurs when a player deliberately lowers their body or leaves their feet to make contact with an opponent's knees or below. So it's also known as like a low hit. So they might call it as like a low hit penalty. They just don't use the term clipping, but that's technically what it's called. So it occurs when a player deliberately lowers their body or actually even leaves their feet. So they kind of like fly into the guy, maybe under tripping or like an embellishment tripping kind of penalty, right? But they end up kind of hitting the guy below at the level of the knee or below.
Right.
Yeah. But you have to,
Actually,
the guy doing the hitting actually has to lower his body, or it says his feet he actually has to leave their feet to make contact. So he's got to like fly and like take a bit of a dive to like hit some guy at the knees or below.
oh, okay. So it's at the knees or below. So that's
Yeah.
clipping.
So,
You know what that
so
reminds me of?
that's generally, it's just like a general minor penalty, but it would be a major penalty in a game misconduct if the guy actually injures the opponent or the referee deems the impact just to be more violent, right? Just like other ones. And then it's a
Right.
match penalty if the player attempts to injure an opponent or the referee deems the impact to be just totally reckless. So it's one of the least common penalties in the sport. It's considered a dangerous play, and players who clip are often labeled as dirty.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of is back in the day, Craig Muni used to fucking line guys up with that hip check, and I thought it was graceful and beautiful. It was so like like the timing had to be really good, but it's a fair check. I have a video queued up of one of Craig Muni's hip checks. I think this is on Lemieux. I'm gonna play it right now. Um, let's see if it comes across.
I'm jumping up to get a package. Something came into the door.
Oh, actually, that wasn't one of the ones. That wasn't one of the ones I was thinking about.
I'm back.
Craig Meany used to come in real low, almost like he's bending over to pick something up. And a guy's coming in along the boards, and he just plant his ass on the boards, and the guy just fly over him.
Oh, yeah.
Never used to be a penalty, but then they started calling it. And yeah, he took out his fair share of guys doing that. So, no other highlights for us, and no other recommended rule changes for the time being.
No, I
Hockey
think
shorts.
I'm still sticking with my calling them hockey shorts. The penalty being the full 2 minutes, and you have to stay in the box the whole time. And what was my other one? Oh yeah, the changing of the penalty times so that they
Oh
have to
yeah,
kind of shift the period and all that. And again, Tyler's like, oh, it's in the union and the players' union and their contracts. They can only play for the 20-minute periods. Meh, meh, meh. No, these things change. Contracts change. Union agreements change. So I mean, if they
don't
had to play
start
an extra
again.
40 seconds just to kind of kill the penalty, come on, they're not going to die.
Yeah, like we covered that in like episode 3 or something. But
Yeah, those are my 3 main changes right now.
yeah, hockey shorts. It says in the fucking rule book. So why don't you just leave that alone?
Okay, I'll meet you halfway. I'll call them Spants.
Don't do that.
Spants.
What do we?
Let's say it again. Spants.
Couple of old hairy guys at the Schwitz talking about hockey equipment. I don't think so. I'm going to pass on that. You call them whatever you want, just don't call them pants, please.
All right, hockey shirts.
I am 100% behind your idea of 2 minutes is basically a major where you have to serve the whole 2 minutes no matter what. I mean, it's only 2 minutes. Come on. And who doesn't want more offense? So I like that one. And as much as I'd love to not have a penalty or a power play split up between periods, I just wish I don't know. I can't see how the league would find a way around it.
No, I mean, I can see it would be all screwy with like, oh, who's going to change the time and make sure we did the math right, But I mean, I think it would be great, right? I mean, if it's only like the 30, 40 seconds, like how can they not just skip that on the clock? Like, really, is it that hard? Just to be able to play it out, right? And finish it. Because it's like you earned that. You were awarded that penalty. So then to have it broken up, you guys could be like fucking bombing down the ice with a fucking breakaway and then whistle called. Like what, like that's not fair. You were like hurt. A teammate was possibly hurt, injured, you were targeted against, and now you have, all these rules against it, right? So it's no.
Well, this has been truly lovely. Thank you, Andrea. Maybe we can call it A&C Sports Talk. Tyler, you should start eating your vegetables. It's never going to happen.
Tyler, scurvy kills. Okay.
Anyway, thanks very much. It's been great having you, and we'll talk soon.
If you want to wait 2 seconds, I'll show you. Do you want to see an early Christmas present I got you?
Oh, okay.
I think it's appropriate that we're doing it on hockey shorts. Tyler's going to be so jealous.
Oh, I bet.
So when we're watching the games at home, I got you the Loud Cup. And when they score...
Do you use it to drink, or is that just you just blow into it?
Out of this side, and then you blow on this side. So when they score...
That's actually pretty cool.
It's the Loud Cup. So it's the... Here. Today's, T&C Sports Talk and Hockey Shorts brought to you by the Loud Cup, and of course displayed in blue colors for our beloved Oilers.
That's lovely. Let's hear it again. I love it.
Rob as well. Lorna is going to hate me. Oh my God. He's going to kill me for getting this. He's going to be in the basement. She's going to like drop her pots and pans when he blows this thing. So
that's awesome. That's a lovely gift, and I can't wait to use it. That is so sweet. So tomorrow night, the Oilers are playing the Blue Jackets. Let's hope for a win. Let's hope for a little more offense and a little more grease in front of the net. Andrea, it's been a sincere pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will check back in with you next week. Get well soon, Tyler, and have a great night, everybody.
I wanna dance